Hi everyone and welcome to Hobby World. There is no denying it, I enjoy making scale models, and during the last 4 years I have used 3D printers to make all kinds of stuff. Everything from tabletop scenery and miniatures to full-sized movie props and model slot car tracks. So is the Ender-3 any good if you like to work with scale hobbies? I'll take a look at all of the machine's advantages and disadvantages. So basically, I'll cover everything you need to know about this printer regarding scale hobby projects. What do you want from a 3D printer when working with scale hobby projects? Well, that sort of depends on what you're going to use the printer for. There is a huge difference between printing small-scale tabletop miniatures and working on scenery and terrain, for example for a slot car track or landscape you're building. So in this video, I'll do my best to evaluate which kind of projects this printer is suitable for. So let's begin with a bit of the technical stuff. The Ender-3 V2 is an entry-level FDM 3D printer manufactured by Creality 3D. The machine has a build area of 250 x 220 x 220 millimeters. This is the first limitation, so if you need to print larger parts than this, you'll need to split them up into several smaller pieces. And that being said, 220 millimeters is still a decent size when working with most miniature scale models. The machine has a minimum layer height of 0.1 millimeter, making it capable of printing highly detailed prints. The machine comes with a standard 0.4mm nozzle, which is excellent for most print jobs. You will have to adjust the bed manually using these large turn knobs down here. It's a pretty easy process and you'll quickly get used to it, so it isn't a major concern for me. But the machine is capable of adding an automatic bed loading system if you want to, and you can buy a kit. The machine is prepared for it by Creality. When you receive the machine, it will come in a nice and sturdy box. All the parts are safely placed in foam, so they are safe for transport. It's easy to identify all of the stuff inside, and all of the screws are individually labeled, which is really nice when assembling the machine. The manual is simple and has a great step-by-step guide on putting together the machine. There are a couple of areas that can be a bit tricky, especially if this is the first 3D printer you have assembled. There is also a video assembly guide on the SD card that came with the printer though, so it's okay, and you can find a lot of good guides on YouTube. It will take around 1 hour to put the machine together. Below the printer we have a small storage box which comes with all of the tools you need for assembling the printer, and when you need to do some maintenance on it, you will also find all of the tools that's required in this box. So that's pretty neat. Let's do a fine detail test on this Ender-3 printer and actually see if it can print 28mm tabletop miniatures. I found a set of supportless miniatures that I bought on a Kickstarter some time ago, and I'm going to do a test of some rats, a goblin, skeleton warrior and so on. So let's just check it out here. And I keep forgetting this isn't a touch screen because I got the CR6 Max and there is a touchscreen and it looks very much like this, but of course we'll do like that. And my test small file here, and that's how easy it is to turn on the printer, so now we're just waiting for it to preheat. So let's just dig in and take a look at some of the stuff the machine has printed. First of all, I printed some miniatures for a board game. These are giant rats. As you can see, they are quite small, even though I call them giant rats. I printed a goblin, another giant rat, a rat swarm with really tiny rats, just to see what the machine could do, and a skeleton warrior. And then I printed a couple of items, scenery items, which could be used for dioramas or wargaming scenery. And if we take a closer look at the models here, we can see the giant rat actually looks very nice. The printer has done a quite decent job with all of these models. There are some flaws, there are some errors, but I can clearly recognize this as a skeleton warrior, no doubt about it. The goblin is a bit worse, but he's still pretty decent print. So if you're going to use the models for example, board games or something like that, and it doesn't really matter if they are perfect in the finish, this printer will do quite nicely. But personally, I'll probably recommend using a UV resin printer for the task of printing miniatures. But the Ender-3 version 2 is capable of printing something that's very decent considering how small those models are. The ladder I printed here turned out great. Can easily be used for scenery items and tabletop wargaming. So if you are going to print scenery items, small scatter terrain, like a barrel, like this one, this printer will do the task. And it's pretty cheap and inexpensive, as I'm using PLA as the material for printing. And that being said, let's move on to another part of the printing process, or another type of prints you can do. If you split up the models into smaller pieces instead of printing these really small ones, you can actually upscale and print larger prints like this. This is a Drake from Rocket Pig Productions, and just take a look at the quality of this model. It has been printed into, it's 5 single pieces, printed on the machine in fine settings, taken right from Cura. The machine has been unboxed, assembled, fine settings Cura, print, and I got this result, and that's actually quite impressive. So if you're going to print monsters or something like this machine will definitely be a nice choice for you, especially since printing such large models as this will be very expensive if you use an UV resin printer. So the Ender-3 version 2 can make this print pretty inexpensive. It will take some time, but you'll get a great result, and it's very easy setting up the printer and getting it started. I have done some prints on another printer. This is an Ender-3 Pro, but the capabilities are more or less similar to this one. So if we take a look at this, now it's beginning to get really large. This is a huge undead dragon, and it took 150 hours to print in lesser pieces, but the quality is simply amazing. And we have this one over here too, also a great model. So as you can see, the Ender-3 version 2 is definitely capable of printing nice models if you have a bit more size than the standard miniature models over here, where I'll definitely recommend a UV resin printer. The machine is simply incredible at printing models in scale 1 to 16 and collectibles model, such as this model of Scooby-Doo here. This is a really nice print with lots and lots of details, and it turned out just great. Take a look at all of the details and take a look at how smooth the quality of the print is and all of the surfaces. So this model has been printed entirely on a machine similar to this one, and it looks really nice. So if you are into printing collectible models in this size, I will definitely recommend the Ender-3 version 2. I also did this model, which is kind of a horror themed model, and an undead Hydra over here with lots and lots of annoying details when 3D printing, and that also turned out so incredible. So I'll definitely recommend the machine if you are printing models like this. You can consider, if you are really into making these models, consider supporting it with a SLA printer using UV resin for printing something like the face and the very small details like hands and something like that. But it isn't necessary. This model has been printed entirely on a machine like this. So the final thoughts on this printer is that it is great for printing collectible models. If you like printing these larger scale models, this machine will do the job and you will be very happy with the result. You will of course still get a better result with an SLA printer, but this printer is very versatile, so you will be able to use it for lots and lots of stuff. It is also great when working with model buildings, slot car tracks, and places where you need, for example, small models of windows, doors, all kinds of that stuff. You can print it on this machine and get great results. Monsters for role-playing games, tabletop games, perfect machine. As you can see, just incredible results. I am actually quite impressed of exactly this model. And you can even print these larger models as long as you don't mind the time it takes to print them. And the material, PLA, is a cheap material. The printer is fairly cheap when buying. So I think it's a good deal. If you are into scale hobby projects, you will find a use for a machine like this. The only place where I won't recommend it is if you are working primarily with the tabletop miniatures like this, or you are a miniature painter, then you will need a better printer. You will need an SLA printer that prints in UV resin for printing much more detailed. But as a scale hobbyist, I'll definitely say this printer has a spot in my collection. This is an important tool in the stuff that I do on a daily basis when working with my scale models. So I'll definitely recommend one of these. Well, that sort of wraps up everything I have to say about this machine. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and that you found it useful. If you have any comments or feedback, please let me know down in the comment field below. I really appreciate all the feedback I get, and if you have any questions about this machine or any questions about any of these models or what I have done and how I work with any of this stuff, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer. And if you like the content of this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. That would mean a lot to me. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a nice day, everyone.